Benjamin Franklin was one of the most significant figures in early American history, and he still remains relevant today. Allison Nichols describes his relevance by stating Franklin is a symbol of the United States and is even referred to as the first American for his role in creating and defining the new nation politically, civically, and even scientifically. Perhaps even more of a compliment is what Devin Hubbard and McBride claim. Scientist, inventor, diplomat, philanthropist, and entrepreneur, Benjamin Franklin is one of the most remarkable and influential Americans of any generation. Why would these authors speak so complimentary about Franklin? Did he really accomplish so much more than any other inventor or politician? The simple answer is yes. Franklin was born in Boston on January 17, 1706. His early years were influenced by the written word and his affiliation with a printing business. At 15, he became apprentice to his older brother's newspaper, the New England Courant. After returning from England, where he worked for a couple of big London printers, Franklin bought the Pennsylvania Gazette. Perhaps his most recognized work as a writer outside of politics began in 1733 when he began publishing Poor Richard's Almanac. Franklin coined many phrases recorded in the almanac that are frequently still heard today. Phrases such as God helps those that help themselves, a penny saved is a penny earned, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, and perhaps my first personal favorite, well done is better than well said. In addition to being a successful writer and printer, Franklin was also known as an inventor and civic leader. Some of the more famous items Franklin is credited with inventing include bifocals, the lightning rod, and the Franklin stove. He invented the stove in 1743 and first marketed it as the Pennsylvania fireplace. Franklin didn't simply invent things, he used his creative mind to better society by becoming civically engaged. In 1736, Franklin established the first volunteer fire department in Philadelphia that went by the name of the Union Fire Company. Years later, in 1752, Franklin was still inventing and conducted his world-famous experiment with a kite and a key. Discovering electricity clearly has forever changed the world. Powell summarizes Benjamin Franklin's philanthropic spirit by stating, when Franklin saw something that needed doing, he did it. In Philadelphia, he helped launch the city's first police force, the first volunteer fire company, the first fire insurance firm, the first hospital, the first public library, and the academy that became the first institution of higher learning, the University of Pennsylvania. Another area where Franklin had tremendous impact is in philosophy. When he was still a young man, Benjamin Franklin formed a study and social group for young men in Philadelphia that he named Junto. This group helped pioneer many of Philadelphia's institutions, starting with the city's first public library. Junto began with a small group of tradesmen and artisans who met weekly to discuss how they may be serviceable to mankind, to their country, to their friends, or to themselves. Through Junto, Franklin also promoted the paving, cleaning, and lighting of streets. Franklin's philosophical outlook and civic mindedness led him to form the Philosophical Society in 1743. Simply creating such a significant organization is quite an accomplishment. However, as a measure of the group's success, more than 90 members of this society went on to win Nobel Prizes. Clearly, Benjamin Franklin had many talents. His political influence is quite possibly the area where he made the largest impact. He not only shaped the United States, both during his time and today, his actions also impacted the entire world. In 1754, Franklin was the first to suggest the Albany Plan, a joining of colonies under a common government with each maintaining sovereignty. A plan very similar to this found its way to the found support when America declared their independence. Upon his return from England in 1775, Franklin found himself as a member of the Second Continental Congress, where he assisted in drafting and signing the Declaration of Independence. As if that weren't enough, Franklin also assisted in drafting the United States Constitution. Franklin held many other political positions, including the U.S. Minister to France and Sweden, a member of the Pennsylvania Assembly, and the U.S. Postmaster. Franklin's time as a political figure also provided him several opportunities to serve as a mediator. In 1776, Franklin negotiated two treaties, the Alliance and the Commerce Treaties, with France, and later negotiated a treaty with England to conclude the Revolutionary War. As yet one more example of his negotiating skills, as part of the Constitutional Convention, Franklin reintroduced the concept of two legislative bodies, one based the number of representatives by a state's population, and the other providing an equal number of representatives from each state. Franklin pulled off this great compromise, and it has stood the test of time. As Nichols states, Franklin and his many contributions during the 18th century and role in founding of the United States are still celebrated and studied today. In conclusion, everyone should be able to see that Benjamin Franklin contributed to the American culture and development so significantly that his influence would almost be impossible to measure. As stated by Devin, Hubbard, and McBride, Benjamin Franklin has never been more relevant or more contemporary than he is today. Franklin was an extraordinary man, but he was also wonderfully human. This quote is particularly on point because it illustrates Franklin's ability to combine his talent as an entrepreneur while displaying a kind touch through his love for people. Perhaps Powell summarizes Franklin best by saying, "He affirmed that by improving yourself and helping your neighbors, you can make a free society succeed. His most glorious invention was and is the American dream."